Welcome to PTF, the Profiler Task Force. Listen, we all have an intuition, right? This gut intuition. As a matter of fact, for every message from your brain to your stomach, for every one message, do you know there are 8 corresponding messages to 9 from your stomach to your brain? Are you overriding your intuition or are you listening to it? When COVID came to town and life began to change around planet Earth, 4 of us, all profilers, all happen to be women, got together and we said, listen, why don't we share what we know? We're all about generosity. We want people to make smart decisions. We want you to start trusting your intuition. And we want to have like when you just have a bad gut feeling about something, we want to give you the exact tool. Was it their handwriting? Was it something they said? Was it something in their face? Was it something in their body language? My name's JANINE Driver. I'm the host tonight for PTF, Profiler Task Force. And I'm going to introduce the other profilers. I'm the body language expert. So let me pass it over to LENA Cisco.
Hello, I am a former Navy interrogator, Marine Corps certified interrogator. And I interrogated members of Al-Qaeda and Taliban back in 2002, shortly after 9/11. Ever since that time, I have still been interrogating people and interviewing people. I did a TV show for 3 years where I was an expert witness, detecting lies. And I still train law enforcement, government agency personnel, and military personnel in interviewing and interrogation, detecting deception, and elicitation.
Pass it to someone else, LENA. I'll let you choose. Who's going to take it?
Who's going to be Michelle? I'll pass it to you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dressbold, and I am a handwriting expert. I've worked on all different types of cases, dealing from murder cases, embezzlement cases, kidnapping cases. From handwriting, I can tell pretty much everything about a person, what motivates them, what holds them back, if they're going to be successful, if they have a temper, if they're patient, if they're cheap, or I don't know, if they're good in bed. So pretty much anything you want or don't want to know, I can tell you from your handwriting. And I'm the author of the book, Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. And now, Susan, take it over.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Morphew. I'm a human behavior hacker, and people hack computers. I hack humans, and since everybody's former something, I would say I'm a former crazy person. At the age of 40, I understand it's my personality. I'm not justifying that anymore. My specialty is face reading, profiling, and reading faces with mask. And like Michelle, I can know your dirty secret, how dirty you are, even how much you are willing to spend. And I did an event this weekend and a woman asked me like, how can I find somebody can be my sugar daddy? Check on the nose. So everybody's fascinated with ears, but in some point we're gonna start going deeper and why the nose is not only for a smell, it's way more than that. Janine, back to you.
I'm the body language expert. My name's JANINE Driver. I worked for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, for 17 years. And I think I retired, I have to do the number, but I think it was about 38 years old. I wrote a book and it was called You Say More Than You Think. Still is. It's translated in over 15 languages. New York Times bestseller. My second book, You Can't Lie to Me, didn't do quite as well, not yet. And my specialty is how do you know if how you feel about yourself is sending that same message to others, and how do you read others? How do you spot deception? How do you find the truth? This helps you in business, to going through a divorce like I am, to all different topics. I'm so thrilled you're here. Tonight's topic, and we're going to dive in right now with a short introduction. A mom who went missing on Mother's Day 2020. Still, as of filming this segment here of our show, the Profiler Task Force has not been found. Missing mother of 2 teenage daughters, Suzanne Morphew, went missing on Mother's Day 2020. Supposedly went out for a bike ride. Suzanne is 49 years old. As of the recording of our show here with PTF, Profiler Task Force, still not found. A lot of controversy around Suzanne's disappearance. She was out of Colorado, Salida, I think I'm saying, and it's very, very suspicious. More than 100 law enforcement officials have been involved in the search and rescue. There have been drones and tracking dogs and the FBI involved, and of course the Salida Police Department, among many others. Barry and Suzanne seem to be a very loving couple. And Barry has been under a lot of suspicion. As a matter of fact, there's Facebook pages on this, and people want to know what's really going on. Barry stepped up and offered a $100,000 cash reward for the safe return of his wife, Suzanne. A family friend matched that for $200,000 for safe return. Nothing has panned out yet. We still don't know where Suzanne is. Barry is a landscaper, and a lot of drama has gone around with this case. And I'm curious to see what the profilers have to say. I have no idea what direction they're going to go in. We purposely do not coordinate so we can see where we kind of ebb and flow and what grabs our attention the most. Some of the controversy around what's going on with the the disappearance of Suzanne is there's an alleged other woman in this case, and this woman has denied this unbelievably so. And her name is Morgan Gentile. And she goes, yes, I'm a woman. She worked for Barry. And as a matter of fact, she even said, and there's tons on this online, she even said, listen, not only did I not have an affair, I'm scared of Barry. I don't want to see him again, ever again. She said that he seemed very stressed just before Suzanne went missing. And as a matter of fact, he gave her the day off and said, listen, I'm going to go bike riding and exploring nature with my wife today. I'm going to give you the day off. But yet she later found out he never went bike riding and exploring nature with his wife. He still remained in town running errands. What errands was he running, and will we ever know? The interesting part is the next day, Barry calls this woman who worked for him, Morgan Gentile, and says, listen, 150 miles away, he sounded frantic, Morgan said, 150 miles away, we got a job, we got to get on it. He goes out there with her along with some other people. Once he gets there, he goes, oh, something came up, I've got to go home. And so she said it really scared her. She didn't know what was going on. So what is the truth? And can we figure out just a tiny little bit more of where Suzanne Morphew might be? And was her husband, Barry, involved? My name's JANINE Driver. I'm the host tonight of our show, The Missing Mom on Mother's Day, 2 teenage daughters, Suzanne Morphew. A lot to be said. Let's turn it over to Susan Ibitz. What did you find out about the face? And I'm curious, whose face are you analyzing? Susan.
So what I'm going to be talking about is both. I will not going to be analyzing one of them. I'm going to analyze them both from the day they were getting married until the couple of pictures that you see online. And you're going to see a couple of differences. And one of the things that struck me the most, why she was hiding how intelligent and how sharp she was. And I'm going to tell you how you can spot that in everybody around you. Here we go. This is the picture when just they got married, and there are significant changes during the years, but let's go to see the people who get married to the people who was for almost 20 years together. She have the kind of small nose, that small nose who is capable to do every day the same. She was optimistic. She have the small nose. You can see the small nose. You're going to see the arrows on the point where we're talking about her nose. Small, pointy up nose. It's a person who it's a worker bee. I call it that the people who is optimistic on the office, the person who can be doing the same every day, even if they don't like it, because they have a goal. They need to be done. Now, he have a completely different nose. She have a small nose. He have a long, big nose. He was ambition. Now, his ambition was backed up by intelligence. Let me tell you, between both, she was the brain of the relationship. It's a consistency on Suzanne that I noticed that it's incredible. Do you see how she had bangs and she covered her forehead? Well, you're going to find out from 20 years, she was doing the same. In this picture, you cannot find out and see how she have the bangs and cover, but in one way or another, she always was covering her forehead. Only to understand, we talk a lot about ears and people get fascinated with ears, but foreheads has to do how I process information and about my intelligence. She people tend to have bangs and cover the forehead when they're really intelligent, and for some reason they need to step that, play dumb. They need to play dumb in a relationship because your partner get mad or aggressive when you are more intelligent than the partner is. And women tend to do that more than men, put the bangs. So when you find a woman who using bangs, it's pointed that that woman is really intelligent and doesn't want to show it. Now, she was more linear on the face. You can see the face, they're different. He was a doer. Actually, what he does for work has to do with the face. He wasn't stupid. He is not stupid. He's really calculated person. You can see that he had a big zone 1. Zone 1 is the forehead. Zone 2 is the nose, and zone 3 is the doing, the lower part of the face. She was more emotional than he is. Now, you can see that he doesn't have any upper lip. The upper lip in our face has to do with our emotions, not only how we express our emotion while we're talking to you. If I talk to him and says, how you feeling? He will reply to me, I'm doing great. It's not going to say, I'm feeling great. She was more emotional. And by the way, she was the kind of person that keep going and going and going, but both have the same. If you look on the front tooth, it's like the same, the front tooth were the same in both. So they were both ambitious, they were both drive, and they both have a goal. In this case can be forming a family, growing a business. I have the feeling that she was a lot instigator on the business he have, because she was way more ambitious than he is. Now you can see the chin. He have a straight chin. When you have a straight chin, it's like a line. It's cutting. They know what they want, how they want it, what they want it. Is the kind of person who, when he has something in his head, he's gonna make it happen. So if something happened to Suzanne, who can be related to the husband, he planned it in advance. This guy doesn't even go to grab a coffee if he doesn't know what he want to do. Now, do you see? This is the common denominator since she got married. She always covered her forehead. She always playing down. So we're going to do a fast reading on Suzanne before we go into him. And actually, I don't even remember his name. I kind of discussed it to him. So you see the eyebrows? She have straight eyebrows. She was about data, facts. She doesn't like change. Is my way or the highway. She looked like a sweet girl, but believe me, this woman was strong. She had a character. And even though they look like the perfect couple, I don't will be strange that people start coming on more the intimate level, on the intimate circle, they have friction, because she was a strong character. You're going to see she have high ears. You see, she has small high ears, meaning that she take information and process information really fast. She have straight eyebrows, facts and data, and she have a straight chin. She was way more direct than him when she needed to talk. And she was extremely intelligent, and she was hiding it. And by the way, her upper lip, for being a woman, it's kind of disappearing. I do have the feeling that whatever was happening in her life, she was hiding it. And again, remember that we talk about the hiding lines on lies. You see this corner on the indentation on the mouth has to do with hiding things, has to do with keeping secret. Those secrets can be that I don't have a good relationship, but I don't want to tell others. Why? Because I don't want people getting in my nose. Now, you're going to see that he have high ears too. His eyebrows are chameleon. We call chameleon eyebrows when I cannot see it well with the hair. Now, what happened when a person is chameleon eyebrows? You never know what is going on. So whatever was going on in his life, in his head, and whatever was the tactic he have, you're never going to find out. One of the things that struck me the most with this guy is he managed how he want to give interviews and how he want to talk to the media. He liked to be in control. And you can see on his personal side, the eyelid, it's covering the eye, meaning that he's an extremely stressed, is more stressed out in his personal life than business life, who can be logical from somebody who supposedly lost his wife. Now, you see the lips? You're not going to see any lips, neither on the personal side, that is the top lip, neither on the bottom side, who is his external life. So to concrete, small ears, he was visual. He processed information really fast. She was more intelligent than he is. He was more a doer. I have the feeling that the one who was in control of the relationship was her. He's lying. He's not optimistic. You see the mouth on the personal side. You can see that the corner of the mouth go down more than the business side. It's whatever happened, and is happening in his personal life. It's not on the business side. What it is, we're going to find out sooner.
Susan, that was fascinating. I have a question for you, but before I ask my question, I'd love to ask LENA and Michelle if you have a question of Susan's analysis.
Actually, Susan, when I looked at that last picture and you were talking about his personal side and professional side, the two lines right here, the one on his personal side was deeper and longer. Does that mean anything?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're going to talk in one of our episodes about asymmetry. There are studies done when they show that if you get a face and you cut it and put two right side and two left side, you're going to look like you're talking about different people. Whatever was happening in his personal side, those lines has to do with burned out. He is burned out on his personal side because the line, he's burned out because the eyelid is covering the pupil and is way lower and inflamed. His lip on the personal side, that is the right side of the screen, is down and longer. That long and down and longer has to do with lies, keeping secrets. Face reading is not going to allow you to tell somebody's lying, but it's going to allow you to know where the person is going to be keeping secret. He was keeping secret on his personal life, but not in his business life. That's what I'm saying. Sooner or later, somebody's going to come up and says they were fighting like cat and dogs, but nobody want to say it. They were really private. They didn't tell anyone what's going on for some reason. And I'm dying to know what is the reason.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Susan. That's an awesome question, LENA. Michelle, do you have a question?
No, not really. I only question I have is that face of the liar after she allegedly disappeared, or is it before she disappeared?
This is a picture after disappear, but there are a correlation on when the years come in. That's the reason I show the picture when they got married. And okay. She was more consistent on the way she was. He changed more. He was keeping more and more secrets, and on the both keep more secrets on the personal life than the exterior life. Exterior life, we call it that, how the people perceive you, your work, and how you interact with others.
Got it.
I found it fascinating about the bangs on the forehead. It's someone masking intelligence, and it happens more with women than men when we need to play dumb. And the reason that really struck a chord with me, Susan, is years and years ago, I talked to a couple of therapists at some event I was speaking at, and for some reason we started talking about our hair and like bangs. And so what I discovered is that from these therapists, that when people are suicidal, they start to pull their hair, like your teenage daughter or whatever. So they start to get long bangs, their hair starts to pull in front, and they disappear underneath the hair. And I'm curious if you had heard something like that, is that similar? And it strikes a chord with me, especially my oldest is 15, he's a boy, and he has long hair, and I always make sure his hair is like out of his face. You know, he's a very private kid, and I'm like, I want to make sure he's not depressed or suicidal because he's very private, but I'm always like, keep that hair out. Let me see your pretty blue eyes. Is that something you've heard before, or are you surprised to hear about that correlation?
No, there are three things in your face that I love to study. Is first of all, piercing in your face and your ears. Where the piercing is located has a meaning. Tattoos in your face, or when you deform your earlobes. And the third one is the hair. Depending what part of your face you're covering is the part of your face that you want other people to see. Ears has to do with how we take information. I don't want to hear you. I want to cover my ears. I don't want you to talk about process information and intelligence. I'm going to cover my intelligence. And when you see those teenagers, they're cover their face, they tend to be really introvert and shy. It's like the dark person in the corner who's covering their face all the time, wearing dark. Lena and I, we talked in an interview with Eric, like how we were so aggressive. And when we were a kid, why? Because it was a defense mechanism. So it's like when the kids, they do something, or the dog or the pets do something and say, who broke the vase? And they do this. The same happened with the hair. We use the hair as an ornament, women and men. We were talking before the show about the hair and how we do our hair. And believe it or not, it's an ornament to our face that has to do with what we want to hide too. Neither of us is covering our face. Why? Because we own who we are. We are unapologetical ourselves, and we are not afraid to show it.
Thank you, Sister Ivitz. Michelle, you got a question?
I just want to say something. Last time I went to the hairdresser, I said, maybe I look good with bangs. Can I have some bangs? And she's like, no, your hair's too curly. You won't look good with bangs. I'm like, okay, I don't need bangs. But I never have bangs because my hair curls up, so, but I said, maybe it would be fun to have bangs, and maybe I think I need more fun in my life. So maybe bangs are fun. So
maybe you want to hide how much fun you want to have.
Yeah, I just want to have fun.
That's interesting.
But
all right.
Anyhow, I don't have bangs yet, but maybe next time you see me, I'm going to have wispy bangs.
I think your hairdresser was on to the right track.
Okay.
Unless you're going to become TikTok famous and you want to do one of those things where you put a ponytail in and cut it.
Right.
Hold off on the bangs. Keep that beautiful face out there, Michelle.
Okay.
All right. Let's keep diving in. If you are a member of our Patreon team, I want to say thanks. We have 2 new Patreon members, Mary Elizabeth Webb and DM Don Marie, who I love dearly. Thank you to both of you. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a great way to support artists. We're not getting paid to do this. You become part of the show. You become an ambassador for the show, and we'll give you more information at the end. And if you want to know it right now, you can't wait one more second. Be sure to check out our website, theprofilertaskforce.com. You can find out more there as you scan through. And at the end, we'll give another shout out to how can you become an ambassador to the show. That helps direct the content, and you get VIP sessions with us every Wednesday night. If you're watching us over on YouTube, be sure to click the bell or follow us, however that works. Same thing on Facebook. We are live every Wednesday night, 5 p.m. And then we go live and answering questions with a guest, or do role plays and actual consulting from us live at 9 p.m. East Coast time, also on Wednesday. So thank you for being here. And if you are following us in our audio podcast, be sure to check us out over at Facebook and on our site and on YouTube. All right, let's dive in. We are going over now to, how about you, Michelle? Are you up for the task? I want to know what
I'm up for it. Yes.
What's the handwriting? And I'm dying to know I'm excited to know, did you do just Barry? Did you do Suzanne? Did you do someone else? I can't wait. So Michelle Dresbold, over to you, sister.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you Barry's handwriting on a note that he left while supposedly looking for his wife. Now, this note, it says, baby blue bike helmet, biking clothing. He left this in a store for somebody, if you see my wife. Now, the one thing you might notice, he described a bicycle. He might have described clothing, but what didn't he describe? His wife. Found that very interesting. That's just number one. Nothing describing the wife. Let's look at this word baby. Now, Susan had talked about possible secrets in this guy's life. If we look at the word baby, it's actually written fairly large. He could have put light blue bike, but he chose the word baby. And then in the word baby, we have that A. If you look very, very closely, it starts with a check mark. Check marks show up in handwriting of angry people. If you take your hand and you make checks, feel it. You'll feel the anger. It's very interesting that there's an anger stroke in the word baby. Now, Lena, who's our interrogator, if I were interrogating this guy, I'd say, what does baby mean to him? Did he call his wife baby? Is there some baby somewhere? What triggered him? But the word baby definitely is large. and has an anger stroke. That's number one. The next thing I'd like you to look at is the H in helmet. If you look at the H, you will notice there's an extra little loop on the H. That little loop is called a worry loop. When you see loops that don't belong, especially if they're high up, it means that thought goes around and around and around in the writer's head. So we have an angry person who has obsessive thinking. Now, let's move over to helmet, the T. Look at it very carefully. Notice that the T ends in a sharp point. If you want to deal with somebody who is has a temper, somebody who is critical, it could be just verbally critical, or it could be physically critical or physically aggressive. A T will go off to a sharp point. Think about somebody who must get his point across. And we have that little sharp point. I want you to also, let's look at biking clothing. Notice that the G ends in a sharp point. Also, as I said, points, angles are always anger. Now, the lower loops represent our physical and or sexual area. We have an angle in the lower zone. Now, if you have arthritis, you might have angles, but let's assume he doesn't have arthritis. That angle shows sexual aggressiveness and sexual anger. But the biggest thing I want you to see in his handwriting, and I didn't mark it because I want you to really look at it, is the K in biking, B-I-K-I-N-G. Look very carefully at that K. What is it? Is it a K? It's really an X. Do you see that X in biking? The middle of biking is an X. What does X mean where it doesn't belong? When you want to cross yourself out, you put an X. People who are thinking of death, destruction, will put X's in their handwriting where it doesn't belong. So is it a coincidence that this Xing or death thought is on biking? Most likely not. So we have somebody, is he angry because she disappeared? Worried because she disappeared? Or did his anger, aggressiveness, criticalness, sexual strangeness, and maybe something dealing with a baby cause an accident in biking? I just am pointing out these things to look at. So that's a wrap of the handwriting, unless anyone has some questions on it.
This couple have more secrets than the Secret Service, believe me.
Yes.
You feel the same?
Oh, definitely. I did look at her handwriting also, and I thought we might talk about that if you join us for our Patreon group. So it's a very interesting thing. I've been looking at different women who sometimes get involved with these kind of men, and I would like to discuss that in our Patreon thing. But if I would say when you see X's, like in that, when things turn into X's, like in biking, you need to be aware.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. That was unbelievable. I learned so much being with you ladies. This is the Profiler Task Force. That was Michelle Dresfold, author of Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. Before I ask Michelle a question, because something you pointed out, I sometimes do on my handwriting, I think a long time ago. But first, I'd love to ask both Lena and Susan if they have something for you, Michelle. Girls, ladies.
I saw a lot of secrets, and it says in my face reading that both are keeping secrets on the personal life. And what Michelle says about stress on the personal life, it makes sense. Now the word, it's any correlation that he used so many B's, like baby, blue, bike, biking, has anything to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but there's some reason if you ask him, but I do think the words you choose, he doesn't need to choose baby, and he didn't choose anything about her. So what this all means something to him.
And I think that is going to be a question for Lena and Janine. Like, you don't talk about people who's not with us anymore.
Exactly. I'll talk something about that. But Michelle, you know, I am your classic word nerd because I love to analyze the the words that people choose to use, not
Right.
just happenstance that they choose to use. But I also look for patterns, right, in speech, whether it's in a note like this or if I'm listening to someone. And I also like to look at patterns in how they write. And so if you look at the baby blue bike, that K is completely different from the K in biking. And so my mind immediately goes to why, because to me, it gives me a sense that he had one emotion writing baby blue bike and another emotion when he was writing biking.
I thought of that too, because you see that he does know how to do a K and not make it into an X.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's X in the word biking, which is a doing thing, you're biking, you're moving. I would be very suspicious of something that happened to her while she was biking.
Agreed.
And there's the X'd out. What do you do when you X somebody out? Cross them out.
Exactly.
And it's crossed out while the person's biking.
And also,
when you cross someone, like you said, like you cross someone when it's out of your life.
Yeah.
And the detail of baby blue, there's no color in the helmet, no color in the biking clothing, nothing about her. I have a huge problem with that.
I have a huge problem with it too. And I think picking baby blue, what's blue also? Maybe baby boy. I don't know. Yeah. There's something secretive going on in this guy's life.
Okay. I don't know if you can see this or if we can focus in on me, but I write call me like this.
Yes.
So what I'm curious on, Michelle, is this considered a V mark? I don't do this anymore, and I used to be a very big hothead, and I'm curious with my A. So I don't know if it's, and I'll send this.
Oh, I see. Can you hold it up, Janine? Okay, well, that A means something different. It's not that check mark. Your A goes backwards to the past and goes forward. It means two things. Somebody who has that extra loop on the left-hand side means they like to know what's going on around them. A little bit of a busybody, I hate to say it, but you want to know if I'm talking in the corner to Lena, what's Michelle saying to Lena? You like to know what's going on all around you. It also looks a little like a star if you look at how you crossed your A. And I know you, and I think you are a star, and I think it's a desire to be a star. And to me, you are a humongous star, and I admire you greatly. So I think putting that A in, you may have simplified things. You know, we put extra stuff in our life, extra doodads. We don't need all that stuff.
Yeah.
So probably when you used to do that, you like to know everything that's going on around you, everything and everybody, and this huge desire to be a star and to make your mark. It's as we progress in life and our personalities change, our handwritings might change.
Yes, I noticed I do more of a small one now, but I've had a lot of training on emotional intelligence. I'm 50. You know, my mother always said, and like Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better. For the people at home, Michelle, my last question is, what happens if they have some of this handwriting that Barry has? Like, should they be like, overly sensitive? Wait a minute, I am kind of angry. Does this mean I'm going to kill my significant other? Like, does this mean it's going to get worse with age? Like, what should people, if they have some of the negative traits that we're talking about, are cautious traits, what can we do to be better versions of ourselves? And should we be afraid of ourselves?
No, I'm going to give you me. I actually they're called tick marks. They look like check marks. They're called tick marks. They mean anger. Now, all of us have anger. We all have jealousy. We all have everything. Now, years ago when I was studying handwriting, my teacher said to me, Michelle, why do you have so many tick marks in your handwriting? Check marks. And I was like, I don't have check marks. Well, what are you talking about? I'm like this sweet, nice little girl. And she's like, no, you have tick marks. And I'm like, anyhow, what I did, I said, And then I was going through a very rough, very difficult in my life. And I would never admit it. I'd never say it out loud. And I went into the bathroom, and I shouldn't cry. And I just started screaming. I am angry. Why did this have to happen to me? And screamed and screamed and screamed. And then the tick marks went away, little by little by little. But I tend to be the type of person who doesn't like to show anything is wrong and everything is perfect and nothing ever hurt me. And so by me seeing it in my own handwriting, I got much more aware of, okay, this is it there. I have anger. Let's address it. So just because you have anger marks, yeah, we go through angry things. Things in life is not perfect. It is a way to examine yourself, get control of yourself, and then use that knowledge to help yourself.
Michelle, you're blowing my mind because, you know, this program is all about trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, and not just reading other people, but how do we walk away, the people at home, how do they walk away being better versions of themselves? And
Right.
Emotional intelligence is self-awareness and social awareness. And so I love that you tied it into you, and because you represent so many other people out there that have that going on, and me wanting to be the star of the show. Susan, I know you have a question. We're going to have to keep your question, my dear. No, we got to keep it. We're out of time. We got to go tight, but you can keep it to our show live Wednesday night, 9 p.m. for the Patreon people. You want to know what Susan's question is? Stick around there. Let's pass it over to LENA. Sorry, Susan, I know it's going to kill you. You talk more than me. I think we're tied with the talkers. We both crossed that finish line at the same time. Let's turn it over to LENA Cisco, and then I'll land the plane for all of us. Sorry. Thanks, Susan, for being so patient. I love you, kiddo. You're the best. LENA Cisco, what do you got for us?
Okay, so there is a reason why people use the words they use. And so we're going to go through a couple of statements that Barry said, and I'm going to analyze them for you. So I have a couple of screenshots, and this first one that you're going to look at is from a recorded it wasn't really in an interview. In fact, Barry didn't know it was being recorded, but it was some guy, Tyson Draper or Draper. Unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he recorded Barry, unbeknownst to Barry, or so we think. And he transcribed what Barry was saying during this video. And apparently this guy leaked the video on YouTube, so you can look it up and watch it. But there was a couple of things that Barry said that caught my attention immediately. And there's so much stuff, but for time's sake, I had to cut it down to 3 really juicy things that I wanted to share with you. And I also wanted to preface this. I always go into investigating a case unbiased. So I tend not to read anything or listen to anything that is very opinionated. I want the facts. Okay. I'm a fact girl. I'm an analysis girl. And that's what I look for, so I can come up with my own analysis. And you're going to hear that right now. So let's get into it. This first slide that you are looking at, again, coming from this Tyson Draper or Draper video, he states this, and this is Barry's words. So I'm going to read it to you. You can follow along. JANINE was really upset. Okay, doesn't make sense. Was really upset that first night. And I was in Denver, so I didn't get there until 9 o'clock that night. And my friend's an Army Ranger, and he knows this stuff better than anybody. He did 400 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then it trails off. I'm sorry, who cares? So we call this a smokescreen. Number one, he starts off, was, okay? There's a reason why Barry is not following the rules of grammar. It's because what's going on in his mind is not what is coming out of his mouth. Something else is behind what he's telling us. And when people don't follow the rules of grammar, it's usually because they're withholding something or trying to suppress the truth or suppress some type of information. So was really upset that first night. Well, I want to say, duh, because if you couldn't find your wife and she's missing, well, you should be upset. Right? But because the grammar is off, that doesn't ring true for me. I don't feel that he's being truthful here. But then he rolls on to talk about his friend who's an Army Ranger. What on earth does that have to do with his missing wife? It's a big smokescreen. So it just tells me, as a statement analysis expert, that if you're trying to take my attention off of your missing wife and onto your Army Ranger friend who has all these tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and is a tracker or whatever, there's a reason why you're trying to divert my attention off of your missing wife. It's because you want to get off the topic of your missing wife. All right. So that's number one. And now let's see another screenshot. This is where I really had a problem. But when I read it, this light bulb came on, and I thought to myself, you know, I've heard this before, and I'm going to tell you why and where I heard it. We're just going to concentrate on those two first lines. He says, well, it was Mother's Day, so we had two daughters. I'm going to end it there because just in these two lines gives me so much information. And remember, I go into cases unbiased. So I did not go into research and everything about Barry thinking, oh, he must have killed the wife. No, I do my fact analysis and I take everything and really try to find out what's going on. And also, I had no idea who Barry was until we decided to profile his case. And then I read these two lines and it pretty much was a hole in one for me. First of all, his filler words increase. So that just tells me he doesn't trust what he's saying and he's buying time to think of what he should say. But here's the thing that really sunk this. He says, we had two daughters. Had. He is already talking about his wife in the past tense. And let me tell you, I talk to a lot of criminals to this day. I still do interrogations and interviews. And whenever the person that I am interviewing knows that the other person is dead and not coming back, they talk about them in the past tense. We had two daughters. I should hear, we have two daughters and we're still trying to find her. And we still think she's out there. Maybe she's abducted. Okay, if you truly believed your wife was out there living, you would talk about her in the present tense. When you believe that she's not coming back, and for whatever reason, I'm not saying that he killed her because I'm not a mind reader, but he does know she's not coming back. So the other time that I heard this, if you guys are familiar with the Scott Peterson case, he said exactly this. I think this was a day after Lacey had gone missing. So it was Christmas Day. And he was talking to reporters. And Scott Peterson said this to the reporter. I had nothing to do with Lacey's disappearance. As soon as the authorities heard that, they said, nope, that guy's guilty. Why? Because already just 1 or 2 days after Lacey's disappearance, Scott's already talking about her in the past tense. Listen, this is not stuff you just read about, okay? I have 2 decades experience of interviews and interrogation. And when people talk about a person in the past tense, they know they're not coming back. All right, so now I'm going to play his little 25-second plea video for you. And there's 2 things, or really 3, that pop out that I'm going to share with you after. So have a look at it.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
Okay, so you just heard his plea, right? So aside from the fact that it was 25 seconds long, there was no emotion. He was shaking his head no the entire time, which tells me it was incongruent. So his body language is not matching his spoken language. And the fact that I think it came out like a week after his wife disappeared. Okay, so I'm not buying this at all, but here's what really got my attention. And you can see it right now in this screenshot. This is his face, his facial expression after he finished that plea. And if you don't know what it is, it's called contempt, okay? And it's that half little smile like this. It only happens on one side of the face. People like to call it a smirk. You can call it whatever you want, but it is contempt, and contempt means moral superiority. I will tell you, in 2 decades of interrogating and interviewing people, 99% of the time that I see contempt, it is right after someone has lied to me. And it's because, I got away with that one. And there it is. I did not expect to see this in this guy's face. And when I did, that just sealed the deal for me. I don't buy it. I don't believe that he has any emotion. I do believe that there's some foul play here. So I'm also going to tell you a couple other things. So aside from seeing contempt and what I know about contempt, he mentioned 2 things, and we are also going to be doing another case in the future on Chris Watts. So aside from seeing contempt in this picture, he says 2 things that are super similar to Chris Watts, and we're going to be doing him and profiling him in another case in the future, so stay tuned. And they're both from Colorado. Coincidental or not? Probably. But anyway, this is what he said. Okay, so when we hear Barry in this plea, Barry says, I want you back so much. Funny, because guess what Chris Watts said in his interview the day after his wife and 2 daughters disappeared? Chris Watts said, like, I want her back so much. I mean, come on, guys, can you come up with something a little more sophisticated? They both said this. That's not the only thing that these two said that they had in common. So Barry goes on to say in his plea, if you're out there, okay, if anyone is out there that can hear this, if anyone is out there that can hear this, who is he talking to? Because I can hear it, I'm watching it, but who is he talking to? Chris Watts, when he's interviewed, says this to the media. If you're out there, so we have that conditional clause, right? Starting off with if, and both of them follow, if anyone's out there, if you're out there. That just tells me there's no one out there that is going to know anything about their missing wives. So that's a wrap, ladies. That's what I have. I went in unbiased. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. This guy does not have my benefit of the doubt. There's something going on. There's something sneaky, and there are a lot of secrets here.
Lena, that was unbelievable. You know, we all lie. I think it's something like 1 in 9 social situations. And so if people are telling a little white lies to get out of work or to, you know, avoid embarrassing someone, you may want to pay attention to your tenses is what I'm picking up on here, because right now people are watching our show. They're not going to get away with anything. As a matter of fact, we'll be judging ourselves when we tell a little white lie. That was awesome. I don't have any questions, Lena. I have a million questions, but I'm going to ask you them in our Patreon session tonight at 9 p.m. East Coast time. So I'm going to turn it over for Michelle and Susan, especially Susan. I cut you off earlier. So Susan, do you have any questions for Lena? And then we'll turn it to Michelle.
I'm going to make a question and I want to wait for you to answer on our happy hour for all of us. You say something. You don't want to see information about the case before to not get biased. I don't want to read faces until they come to me. So girls, let's talk about this on the Patreon. So this is a teaser. What happened when a profiler need to get a case? You need to know about a lot about the case or nothing about the case to not get biased. Shh. Let's talk about tonight.
Yeah, my answer might be different than yours too. How about Michelle? What do you have to say, sister? Any questions for Lena?
And no, I actually really enjoyed that, Lena. So that was so fascinating. So thank you.
It was a lot of fun. All right, my turn. I'm up. My name's JANINE Driver. I'm the body language expert. Let's talk about this kind of hidden camera that catches Barry talking about, you know, what was done for the search and how we searched all of the mountains, and hand gesture he does along with a word. So maybe Lena can chime in on it as well. That he said that immediately was like, that's very suspicious to me. And anytime someone says this particular word is with this gesture that I'll be highlighting, you should have your BS barometer going off like crazy, like this, alert, alert. So let's dive in. There is so much to talk about with Barry Morphew. It's very disturbing. I'm going to jump in with a hand gesture that he's making right here, and I'm going to show it to you, okay? So he's pointing there and then pointing here. Pointing there and pointing here. Here is where he's saying, I wasn't here. You know, I was in Denver. You know, I didn't get in until 9 o'clock. So the hand gesture here is fine with, you know, I was over here, not here. That part's okay. The part that I don't like with the hand gesture, I'm going to show you in a quick second. But first, I want to talk about offering evidence before it's asked. This guy that's videotaping him, he's not asking him like, where were you? What's your story? And then Barry goes right into his alibi. This is called offering evidence before it's asked. It's also often called convince, not convey. He's overly trying to convince us. Now let's go to the actual hand gesture, right? So here, this sounds lousy. Look at, I want you to see, look what he's doing with his right hand. He like becomes like a T-Rex, right? He holds his hand in this like T-Rex-y pose. When I turn sideways, my arm disappears. It's like magic. So right here, his arm disappears. This right here is I'm holding something back. I want you to imagine if you said, hey, I was just at the grocery store a couple minutes ago. Your hand goes up, points to the grocery store, and your hand relaxes and goes back down. Watch what Barry does here. This sounds terrible, but watch this hand gesture. Just hang here like a little teeny right arm, T-Rex arm.
9 o'clock that night. Yeah. I mean, we was really upset that first night, but I was in Denver, so I didn't get here until 9 o'clock that night. Yeah. really upset that first night. But I was.
Okay, so watch this. I'm just going to loop right here. So he makes his point, but then his hand just hangs out here. This says to me that he's overly conscious, this stiffness, right? And he's not just relaxed and free flowing. In my world, we call it a posture gesture merger. That's when the posture and the gesture combine together. It's called a PGM. And when we're authentic and we're real and we're comfortable with you, the PGMs pop up all the time where we're all integrated. But here he stops with his little T-Rex arm and it says to me immediately, I'm like, A, he's overselling, convinced not conveying. B, he's offering evidence before it's asked. And then C, he holds this T-Rex on. Look how weird that is, right? That's very odd. That's very odd positioning to hold his hand. He's overselling us. It's like, it's almost like someone stopping, holding their breath, right? He's holding that gesture. These are what are called deceptive hotspots. Now, he talked about, I wasn't here, I was in Denver. This reminded me and transported me back to a very sad murder case on a young man by the name of Travis Alexander. He was slaughtered by his girlfriend, Jodi Arias. If you're a crime junkie like myself and my other three fabulous profilers, then you know all about Jodi Arias. If this is the first time you're hearing about her, whoa, you're going to go down the rabbit hole if you hit Google on this one. Slaughtered him, stabbed him, I think it was 27 times, and then shot him in the head. He fought for his life. Devastating story. And she took pictures along the way. And I'm not going to go into too many details other than I was in the courtroom. I saw Jodi testify. I sat with Travis Alexander's family. I was reporting in for CNN for the Nancy Grace Show and for Dr. Drew. And Travis's family had heard me speak on a previous episode, and they waved me up and said, Janine, come up here. I get emotional for many reasons on this, one of which is Jodi Arias said she was a battered woman, and this is why she killed Travis. Not true. And for every battered woman who then does fight in self-defense, people could then think, you know, oh, she's another Jodi Arias. And so I have a kindred spirit to anyone, battered men or battered women, and maybe we'll connect on that later. I'm telling you about this case because Jodi Arias did something very similar. When I think it's Detective Flores brought her in and said, you know, where were you? You know, tell me about what you had going on. And here's what Jodi said. Here's Travis.
Which route did you take from there?
I was supposed to get on the 15. I went, can I draw you a map? Sure.
First of all, I was supposed to get on the 15. I don't know if that means she did get on the 15 or she didn't get on the 15, but I was supposed to. That indicates that she didn't, right? So I'm not really sure. She doesn't tell us what road she did go on if it wasn't the 15.
I mean, I don't know where Phoenix is. Mesa, it's got to be over here. I didn't go anywhere near there.
So I don't know where Phoenix is or Mesa. In Mesa is where Travis Alexander lived and was slaughtered. And she's telling us, again, just similar to Barry Morphew, you know, I didn't go anywhere near there. Like, I didn't come home until 9 o'clock at night. Like, I was in Denver. Like, I wasn't even here. Convince, not convey. I think Joe Navarro, retired FBI agent, came up with this terminology. Truthful people convey information. Liars try to convince us of information. So I'm not going to go deeper on Jodi Arias at this time, but hopefully we'll talk about her in the future. I just want you to pay attention to like these offering evidence before it's asked alibis. It's like if you say to your kids, did you have fun last night? Yeah, I didn't bump into our cousins or anything. I didn't see our cousins. The first thing I'd be doing is calling my sister and be like, what were your kids doing with my kids last night? Because something's going on here, offering evidence before it's asked. Next, I want to talk about Barry and a word he says. Again, it's very soft. I'm going to see if I can grab it for you. I don't know if you can hear this word. The audio for this file is really terrible. So let's see what we can find. I'm going to see if I can listen to this word, and I'll repeat it when I hear it.
What happened from the investigators, and they don't give much. And I've got private people working for me. Is maybe she was abducted right here, and they found an article going west of hers. They won't tell us what it is. So they sent another team after they found the article that covered this hillside all the way down to the river pretty good. My concerns were this way and that way if it was the cat. Because the cats, they drag their prey up the mountain and out of people.
First of all, can I just do a sidebar note here? The cats drag their prey up the mountain. So I was concerned with it over there. We're talking about his missing wife. The cats, they drag the prey up the mountain, So I was like wondering if like something was happening up there. It's your wife, dude, not prey getting dragged up the mountain. Sometimes what's missing is the most important thing, right? What's missing here? Sadness, fear.
We can't find sign for the cat, but we got rain right away. Could have washed away sign.
Could have washed away the sign.
So they found her bike.
So could have washed away the sign. So he's giving us excuses why there might not be any evidence.
Just right against that tree down there?
Well, no, it was on the ground. The wheel was facing, and the
I don't know if you noticed that. He said the wheel was facing and then he's going to say the police ruined the evidence. This is called a start-stop sentence. So start-stop sentences, because we have the truth and the lie in our head. And as you're saying them, sometimes you'll go down the wrong path. And it's like, oh, I did the wrong path. Back up and go down a different path. So you'll often hear start-stop sentences with master manipulators and liars.
Sheriff Department. Well, no, it was on the ground. The wheel was facing, and the no, it was on the ground. The wheel was facing, and the sheriff. What seems to have happened.
Okay, so now he says the sheriff's destroyed the evidence. Okay, hold on a second.
Through here, covering messing up all the evidence. They were walking all over this area, which if somebody abducted her, they would have foot tracks. They would have fingerprints on the bike, and they let 10 other people touch the bike.
All right, look at this. They would have had this. They would have had that if someone abducted her. Too casual. A lot of hot spots here. He also uses a word that's called obvious. And what he says is, obviously we could have missed some stuff. Obviously there's probably some evidence or something we missed, obviously. The word obvious is a very interesting word. It can belong here with something like obvious, say floor's wet. It's a pool, right? The bottom of the floor is going to be wet in a pool. And I show this picture and obviously, if someone is using the word obviously, it means that it should be common to mankind or to a group. So let me give you an example of that. If you burn your hand, like we can all imagine what that would be like, right? And it's like, oh, you burnt your hand, did it hurt? And you could say, yeah, obviously it hurt, right? Because we all can understand that. When it comes to missing people or comes to murder or comes to abduction or any of that, there's nothing that's obvious about it, nothing, because it's not common to mankind. Now, it could be common to an environment or a group. Like, for instance, my dad was a mechanic at a fire department, the head mechanic at Brookline Fire Department in Boston. And because he worked for the fire department for, I think it was like 40 plus years, anytime my dad and my mom went on a vacation, they would unplug the blender, the toaster, just literally all the lamps, because he would be afraid of electrical fire while he was traveling. If I went over to the house and everything's all plugged in, and I know my parents have been in Aruba for 4 days and all these lights are plugged in and the blender and the toaster, I could call my sisters and say, obviously there was some type of problem when mom and dad were leaving or someone came here because everything's plugged in. So obviously that's strange. It belongs there. Why? Because my sisters and I grew up in this environment. We're our own community where we understand what dad is like. I mean, unbelievably all about unplugging every single little thing. Okay. So that would be an okay example of using the word obviously. So him saying Barry Morphew, obviously there could be something we missed. I don't know. The word obviously there is suspicious. And you're right. We have missed because we haven't found her body and we haven't tied direct evidence to you, Barry, yet. So right out of the gate here, he says, obviously this was very emotional if you missed it because it's so soft. Obviously this is very emotional. Okay, that obviously is okay. I'm not even concerned about that. It's the next obviously, and I don't think you're going to hear it. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to find just the word obviously. Stand by. So all of the mountains have been covered so far. Ready? Here we go. There's the obviously's coming in right now.
What? Really? All of the mountains have been covered so far. Obviously, we are mistakes. All of the mountains have been covered so far. Obviously, we are mistakes. All of the mountains have been covered so far. Obviously, we are mistakes. Right.
All of the mountains have been covered so far, but obviously we're going to miss things. What? That's so weird for him to use this word, obviously. What do you mean? Obviously, you're going to miss things. No, isn't the purpose of covering it with law enforcement, tons of law enforcement involved here, thousands and thousands of man hours looking for? Obviously, we're going to miss things. It's an unnecessary statement. If anything, we should be saying what? They're doing their best. Like, they're paying attention to every detail. I'm on it, right? So just suspicious. We heard this word, obviously, with another situation. And I'll touch upon it briefly. A football player from Baltimore named Ray Rice sucker punched his fiance in an elevator in Atlantic City. And he was suspended for a couple games by the NFL. And then TMZ, this gossip channel, gets a hold of the actual video, and you can just see it's blurry, but this is after she was just punched and she's going down. He literally knocks her out and drags her out of the elevator. It's all caught on video. It's very graphic, and I'm not playing it today. But what happens is Roger Goodell here, and here's Ray Rice over here to our right. Roger Goodell is going to tell the story, and he's asked a couple questions. Number one, and I'm not playing this part, why, no one believes that you guys didn't see this actual footage. And he goes, no, we didn't get it from the police. We didn't. I don't know where TMZ gets their information. We get it from the police. They're the most credible. And then the reporter's going to say, do you wish that you had seen this tape before you made your decision? And he's going to say, absolutely. You would think absolutely would be a good answer maybe, but the best answer is what? Ask your kids, did you feed the dog? Absolutely. Wouldn't you agree that's weird? Did you do your homework? Absolutely. Did you make your bed? Absolutely. Did you send that report in? Absolutely. Do you see how this is overselling, convince, not convey? The strongest answer here would be a yes. Did you let the dog out? Yes. Did you do your homework? Yes. Did you turn in that report? Yes. Yes is the biggest. Now, if you're the type of person that uses the word absolutely to like really magnify your yes, I'm going to invite you to reconsider and stop using it. It's hurting your executive presence, and it's going to make us think that you're not as confident as you may feel on the inside. You're overselling your answers. Yes is very strong acceptance. So let's hear Roger Goodell. What does he say? Obviously, Ray Rice and his attorneys misled us, or something like that. Let's listen now.
You wish you had seen this videotape before it was released by TMZ?
Absolutely. That's why we asked for it on several occasions. Because when we make a decision, we want to have all the information that's available. And obviously that was that when we met with Ray Rice,
So obviously, now I'm going to stop it for a quick second. Obviously, when we met with Ray Rice and his attorneys, he also does something similar to what Barry did, which is what? Start and stop sentence. Okay. So watch him like kind of wiggle off the road here to find his, to get his words just like a car back on the road. Here we go.
Obviously that was that when we met with Ray Rice and his representatives, it was ambiguous about what actually happened. And obviously that was that when we met with Ray Rice and his representatives, it was ambiguous about what actually happened.
So Ray Rice and his attorneys, and it was ambiguous instead of they were ambiguous about what happened. So right here, he is exhibiting another sign of holding something back. These are called hotspots in my world. So ladies, as I wrap up my segment and we finish our episode on missing Suzanne Morphew, I'd like to ask you, Barry Morphew, do you think he was the mountain lion? Do you think he attacked and killed his gorgeous wife, mother of 2 teenage daughters? Or do you think he's holding something back? Something he's not telling us? Or do you simply think this guy is telling the truth? If you think this guy is telling the truth, I think you should watch our episodes a little bit more as we continue with our program. This is the Profiler Task Force. I'm Janine Driver. I'm your body language expert. All right. So any questions about what I had to say about the hand shrugging and convince, not convey, or shoulder shrugs? And then obviously as well, Lena or Michelle.
Oh, yes. One of my favorite words. So when people use, or, well, obviously, normally it's just a way that they are trying to convince you to believe them. because it's not obvious to me. I don't know what you're talking about. So I find this so often. So when I saw that and heard that, make total
right.
sense.
And then the hand shrug that comes at the same time, and then he turns and blades his body. Do you know Roger Goodell? I don't know if you remember this with Ray Rice. Ray Rice sucker punched his fiance in an elevator over in Atlantic City. And it was terrible, right? And Ray Rice had like a couple games suspension. It was a joke. And Roger Goodell, the head of the NFL, started talking about what happened in that meeting. And he said, obviously, Ray Rice and his attorneys didn't reveal everything to us. Well, it's not obvious, right? I mean, how do we know? We're not in that meeting. So it would be different, I think, if Ray Rice and his attorney had lied 6 times previous and it had been proven in the media. They're compulsive liars. They've lied about everything. Obviously, the guy lied to us because we all know he's a proven liar. But here, it was a case we've never heard of. I've never even heard Roger Goodell speak, but he's like, obviously, Ray Rice wasn't telling the truth, right? So I find that interesting. For me, it's a little alarm. And then I say, okay, what's going on with the body language and that turning and the blading of the body, convinced, not conveying. Any questions, Michelle, Susan?
No, fascinating. Thank you.
I would only say, if you are not collecting this show, you're missing life. Because believe me, this is a master class in how to catch anyone. And maybe while you have been paying attention, what is deception.
All right, that's a wrap. Before I pass it over to you, LENA, to talk about our Patreon page, tonight's topic, Suzanne Morphew, the missing mother of 2 teenage daughters. Her husband, Barry, is in the center of this. There is a tip line. I'd love for Susan to throw it up on our screen. If you know anything about Susan, she's Suzanne Morphew, rather. And the tip line is 719-312-7530. Again, 719-312-7530. It'll be here on the screen. And she's 49 years old and hopefully still is 49 years old. I think it's general consensus. We will be surprised if she's alive. We'd be grateful and would be so thankful if that was the case. She ran a charity organization by her same name that she opened up in 2012. Family and friends, unparalleled comments about how wonderful she was. Our prayers go out to Suzanne's daughters and to Suzanne if she's still alive, and to anyone who's cheering her on and cheering for justice, whether it is Barry or Barry knows someone that did something. Certainly, without a doubt, Barry is not telling us something. We just don't know what the catalyst is. What is he not telling us? My name's JANINE Driver. You've been with Susan Ibitz, our face reader, Michelle Dresbold, author of Sex, Lies, and Handwriting, our handwriting analysis expert, and LENA Cisco, our interrogator on statement analysis and interrogation. LENA, before we wrap it up, sister, how can people join us on Patreon?
All I have to do is go to patreon.com/profiler task force. And there's tiers that you can join, and you can join our after party, which is every Wednesday night starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we do is we talk about the show that aired at 5 p.m. and we answer your questions. So we like to say that our Patreon members, our ambassadors, run this part of the show because we're there for you. We're going to bring up stuff. We're going to tease it with some information, but we want you guys to ask us questions. So we're here for you.
How do you spell Patreon? Because it's such a weird word, right?
It is. And now I can't say the word patron, but it is a Patreon. Patreon.
So, all right, that's it. That's a wrap, everybody. Ladies.
By the way, all the links are gonna be below: the Patreon, the YouTube, the Facebook, our website. So if you don't see it on the screen, don't panic. All the information is below.
Hey, I got to go home and love my kids. I got 3 little sons there. And this case is ripping my heart out. I hate these types of cases. And sadly, even before this airs, who knows, maybe we'll find out some news. And I don't think it's going to be good news, sadly. So I'm out of here. I got to go home and love my kitties. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. This is the Profiler Task Force.